AI has gotten really crazy lately, and one of the results of that is that now anyone can make their own music videos with original music and visuals. Make Babies by Leaflet is one such song, and let me tell you what a song it is. In this video, I will be examining some of the claims that she makes in the video. I will not be going through the whole music video, just the parts that stuck out to me. And I highly suggest that you experience it for yourself before you see what my take on it is. I will be providing a link in the description. Okay, so you're back, which means you've watched the video now. So let's get into it. Right off the bat, this is the core issue that this song is trying to bring attention to. The issue being that uh, the United States in particular, but the world at large, is well below replacement rate in terms of fertility. You can see this on this graph here. This is a huge problem practically because a few reasons. The first, probably bit easiest to see, is that there is less people to keep the economy running. As older people age out of the workforce and not enough young people come in to replace them, that means that we have more jobs than there are people. Now, if there are less people, then the individual value of that worker is higher, which would cause wages to increase as companies have to compete for a smaller labor pool. But like increasing the minimum wage, it would also come with its own problems, such as price increases for goods and services, as well as business closures for those that cannot afford to hire staff. Also, problem with less young people in the economy is that young people are a lot more likely to innovate and take risks. And our economy, especially in America, is built on that kind of risk taking and innovation. So that's a huge problem. Another issue with the falling fertility rate is the healthcare system. Elderly people cannot work, but they are also more dependent on government assistance. And with the current systems, the younger population would be taxed a lot more in order to support the older population. And there would also be less care providers in general. There's a special ratio, I'll put it up on the screen, uh, for the number of taxpayers to people relying on these like safety nets. And if you have less workers, then that ratio goes down, which means that more individual taxpayers have to support people who are reliant on those other systems, which again just increases the taxation and prices overall. Finally, the last issue that not a lot of people talk about, but is still just as important, are infrastructure issues. Basically, declining populations mean that current infrastructure that is built for the specific population in mind will be too large to sustain that smaller population, which would cause an increase in the price of utilities for the individual person, as well as a decrease in the efficacy of those utilities overall. For example, you can look to Detroit for this, where their population went down by 2/3 after the riots in the 1960s. There's just too much area and not enough taxpayers to sustain it. This lyric can also be read to engage in the cultural issue around life. People are so individualistic and short sighted that they are, in fact, not worried, as the lyric asks of us. The fertility crisis indicates a shift in the culture away from viewing life as a gift to seeing human life as a problem. So the lyric invites those who would be opposed to ask, why aren't I worried about this important issue? Just some masterful lyrics here by Leaflet to really cause us to engage in these issues. Now, this lyric brings to mind the proposed solution by many countries, especially the US, which is to increase immigration. Uh, this is just a stopgap method, however, as immigrants adapt to native fertility rates pretty much by the second generation, sometimes even by the first, with the second generation uh, prone to actually being below the average fertility rate, uh, which means that it's not actually as big of a long term benefit as you would believe. Also, The issue with the fertility crisis, like I said earlier, is that it is the whole world which is undergoing this problem. So the supply of young, desirable immigrants to the US will be shrinking as well, as other countries try to keep their young people to themselves. Uh, as you can see, a lot of places are experiencing this downward loop, and we can't just keep taking people, or those places are also experiencing, will be experiencing the same problems we are. So not a great strategy overall to just be relying on immigration. And also by 2030, as per this source, America will be completely reliant on immigration to support population growth, which, again, not a great plan. So the song proposes a solution here as well, that we, quote unquote, increase our own children. This is truly a revolutionary stance by Leaflet.
It's enough to make a grown man cry.
Anyway, onto the chorus. Now, let me just say, this chorus is absolutely legendary. My jaw was on the floor when I first heard it. I was genuinely shaken. I will grant that it is a tad bit vulgar, which I typically am not a fan of, but in this case, for the comedic effect and the shock value, I still enjoy it, and just the grandiosity of it all. Honestly, the vulgarity speaks to the urgent nature of the request to increase the fertility rate. The bluntness overall with the natalist message and the explicitness demonstrates the recent move on the political right to be more direct and open with conservative values and goals as a whole. And after some more excellent lyrical work come my two most favorite lines of the song. Now, the brevity of this lyric, don't let it lead you astray, because this is actually a very complicated and most sophisticated piece of poetry. See here, Leaf Sama is articulating the delicate point that many who argue the pro-choice position do so in ways unbecoming of a lady or gentleman. Explicitly, they attempt to make the abortion debate a case of mother versus child, especially when they attempt to justify the legality of the barbarous practice by citing Rylam, or rape, incest, life of the mother. However, Rylam cases make up less than 1% of all abortions, according to this study. They attempt to squeeze 99% of abortions into the 0.7% Rylam hole, akin to sticking something up your rump that cannot fit, hence abortion being for donkey holes. Masterful poetry. On to the next lyric. Leaf Sama immediately graces us with a lyric of tremendous meaning. To my mind, there are two obvious conclusions. The least technical is the assertion that users of birth control are cowardly. Certainly, the use of birth control implies a person unwilling to accept the consequences of their actions, especially when the ramification could be something as enormous as a child. This interpretation directly mocks the language of the radical left, where seeking an abortion or using birth control would be considered brave.
Brave. So brave.
The other interpretation, which might be a stretch of the mind to the average viewer, but bear with me, is that birth control is designed for the female human sex organ. Now here, Leaf Sama subtly hints to the case of real misogyny in our times, which is the development of the abortion pill. I plan to do a future video on this topic, but in summary, early versions of the pill were developed for both men and women. In men, the hormonal pill caused a slight shrinking in testicle size. In women, and especially in a case where they were unaware they were being tested, it caused a few of them to die. Now, this situation looked rather grim, so they decided to to try one more go at a male birth control pill option. However, this chemical-based attempt had the terrible and tremendously unacceptable side effect of extreme hangover after the consumption of even a single beer while under the effect of the pill. Naturally, the very feminist developers of the pill decided to give this one to the girlies, hence the pill that exists today and is prescribed to teenagers with acne. Leaf Sama has elegantly crafted a lyric simultaneously mocking the average proponent of birth control and warning of the dire consequences of its continued use. The next line I want to focus on is rather violent, and so viewer discretion is advised. Now you may be asking, why is Leaflet advocating for blowing babies up? I thought we were meant to be raising these children. And your confusion is understandable, and it's due to Leaflet and her wisdom using hyperbolic language. See, she wants to cause another baby boom with all of the kids we will be having. A most clever lyric which recalls the historical opposite of the current crisis we find ourselves in. Now, with this next line, I must give a negative critique of the music video so that I can say that I am a fair and impartial reviewer. Unfortunately, this verse seems very unrealistic given our current space exploration efforts. The hope for the future is strong, as it is in the rest of the song, but an emphasis must be placed on the changing what we can here on Earth before turning our gaze elsewhere. I implore Leaflet to explore this possibility first before we turn our gaze to the stars. Anyway, the song as a whole challenges us to do our parts in solving the fertility crisis by challenging the culture of individualism, demonstrating the cuteness and boons of a family, and most importantly, by making babies. Thank you for watching this video. I make other similarly ranty videos if you're interested. Now, allow these soothing lyrics to change your life as I leave you with one more request, which Leaflet asks calmly. Breed more right now! Fuck more!